May I come in?
Please come.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Please take your seat.
Thank you.
Any good news today?
Sri Lanka got the IMF approval for a loan, so hopefully it will bring
So
a
you
lot
are happy about them?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Why should we be happy about neighbors?
As humans, suffering and pain anywhere in the world is not happy news. So hopefully they'll get some relief. They've already dealt with a lot in the last couple of years.
But Indians are not happy. If our neighbors are happy, more happy than Indians.
No, Indians are happy as well.
But happiness index indicate that we are not doing that great.
Right. The index is prepared on a certain parameter. So based on those parameters and the limited data that they use, they must have gotten some outcome. But
so tell me, should we be worried about these indicators, or we should be taking them in stride and working for better outcomes according to our own standards?
Right. So there are two things. I think externally, it's important to not show that we are being very affected by these indicators because it shows, it projects insecurity. But internally, yes, if there are certain findings, we must, whatever limited number of parameters it must have used, I think trust, or there are some other factors which it uses. So if the government genuinely feels that there are some areas, we should definitely work on it. But yes, externally, we should not take them very seriously.
And what is your take? Our leaders should go and speak externally bad about our country?
So I think freedom of speech is a very important.
True, it is.
Is very important, but it for any person in the country comes with reasonable restrictions, which is so for any political leader as well. So, and more so for a political leader because he's representing the country or is viewed by a large number of people. So, in my view, the individual should, or any individual for that matter, should be careful while representing the country.
Country outside.
Yes, absolutely.
Because once he goes, he becomes an iconic figure.
Right. And it is a way people outside don't understand the internal dynamics of political dynamics within the country. So
good. And you see, on one side, some people say there is no democracy or democracy is under threat. And last year, I heard a very prominent Niti Aayog person telling there is too much democracy in this country. Okay. What do you think?
Sir, I think we have the right amount of democracy.
We have right amount of
neither
democracy.
Too much nor too less.
Okay.
As Churchill has said that it is the worst form of government. It is.
So we have worst or right kind of worst thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so that is the bad thing, no?
So
okay.
We are not. We are a very successful democracy, running elections and having democratically elected governments for the last 70 years.
So basically, what are the aspects on which you are proud of in this country?
So a lot of aspects. Politically, I can express myself. There is freedom of speech in this country. Economically, I have the independence and liberty to uptake private enterprises, to engage in a lot of activities that I would like to. Socially, as a woman, I feel secure and empowered in this country. So
You feel secure?
Yes, I do.
Okay. You have been living in Delhi?
I have been living in Delhi for the last...
and of course, Sikkim is a very secure place.
Yes, it is.
So, that's that. So, suppose you are posted to a remote North Indian village.
Right.
Okay. Kind of subdivision.
Yes.
And you find there is a lot of oppression of women, lot of caste discrimination. What would be your priority? How would you see the challenges and address that?
Right. So first, I think the first step is to understand the problem or the roots of where it is coming from. And then, of course, I will take both short-term and long-term measures because these are problems which cannot be routed out in a day. It requires long-term approach. But at the same time, short term, say say if there's problem for women, I think economic empowerment is a very important tool which gives women a lot of liberty.
You were consultant to Government of Haryana. How?
Yes. So I was working with the consulting firm called Samagra, and they had a project with government of the Suzanne and Dell Foundation had a project with government of Haryana. So I was the consultant who was placed there. So I worked with the education department. Education department and the urban local bodies, the Director General of Urban Local Bodies. So I worked on a couple of 2-3 projects there actually.
So can you name those projects?
Yes, there was a project called Saksham Haryana, which for education of educational structural education reforms. So I was working on streamlining departmental budget for SSA and some teacher reform activities there.
Tell me your contribution in that.
Sir, actually transfers is a huge problem, transfers of teachers. So what I did was we prepared and used the MIS or the data system to ensure that if transfers can be done in an online mechanism. So we used a lot of different logics. For example, if a school
were you successful in that?
Haryana has an online teacher transfer policy now, and we prepared the rationalization, and now it happens through
it is not tinkered?
Sorry?
It is not tinkered or interfered by political
No, it is not. So the initial transfer is not tinkered by politicians.
Initial postings are not tinkered.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. Of course, there might be later requests on humanitarian grounds or other grounds, but the initial allocation happens completely online.
So you think that all these transfer posting should be outsourced to AI-based system, logical algorithm-based systems?
So logical algo-based systems can also be, they are actually based on some humans' logic.
There would be logic.
Yes,
there would be logic, a woman or a dependent parents and all those issues.
So once we have refined that logic and we have a very strong logic, we should automate these systems. But of course, there must be provisions for clearing the defects or if there's any such.
Deepika, you are from SRCC?
Yes.
Ajay, tell me, you have taken optional as?
Commerce and accountancy.
Commerce and accountancy. Recently, in one of these media address, the finance minister said that banks need to be little vigilant about the interest rate hike.
Right.
What did she mean by it?
So the federal...
And she also mentioned about reducing the debt instruments interest, the investment advantage which used to accrue.
Right. So I think the finance minister was referring to the interest increase that has been occurring by the central banks to control the inflation in the country. So she was referring to the federal, because the Federal Reserve Bank, which has been in the process of increasing the interest rates.
Okay. So what I mean to say is, did she want to take the more deposits from the public?
Sorry, sir, I didn't get your question.
Did she mean the banks to address the deposits, to take more deposits from the citizens?
Sir, yes, because inflation is very high in the country. So,
okay.
So it is around 5.4 to 6.
It's very high?
It is the limit that we have set for ourselves is 4%. So this is on the higher end
side
of the spectrum.
Okay. Tell me some special features of the budget.
Sir, some of the interesting factors is on agriculture. There is a reform on introducing IoT and digital technology, which I found very interesting. The PM Mitra scheme for textiles is an interesting initiative. There was an initiative on called Mishti for saving of mangroves. The PM Vishwakarma Yojana for unskilled or for skilled laborers in the country is a good initiative. The Saptarishi
concept.
Yes.
Tell me what provisions have been made to achieve that last mile governance.
Sir, so within the last mile governance, they have included a lot of different measures. So for women, for example, the SHG groups are going to be formalized. There are 80,000 SHG groups. For tribals, there were measures for primitive tribal groups. So for different groups within the last mile, government has taken up measures.
Okay, tell me, often it is said that there is a lot of gap between bureaucracy and the public.
Right.
How would you like to address this?
Sir,
because you are a public servant, you should be reachable to the public.
Yes.
And the trust has to be built up and should be increased rather.
Yes, absolutely. Sir, anonymity is an important feature of bureaucracy, which is why sometimes that creates distance between the public and bureaucrats. One way to do that would be interaction. So a lot of collectors, they engage in public engagements.
Okay, the bureaucracy has a system.
Right.
Like you have several officials under you.
Right.
So that could be instrumental in reducing the gap.
Right. Absolutely. So better grievance redressal can reduce that gap.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell me, suppose you are posted in the health department after selection. So there is again one major issue. Like there is again trust deficit between the citizen and the private doctors and private chain of hospitals.
Yes.
Because they prescribed unnecessary medicines, they prescribe unnecessary tests which are not required, and they even go to extent which is not imaginable.
Yes.
So how will you counter this? What could be done in this regard?
Right. So I think Japan has a very interesting model where it has, even Thailand has a very interesting model where it has list of prices for a tentative, not exact list of prices, but tentative list of prices for certain procedures. So better regulation of, because I agree that to some extent this deficit is because there is a problem in the private medicine space. So if we can have greater sort of directives for the private hospitals, and of course positive steps such as more confidence building measures by the private sector will also help.
So my last question. Recently China mediated peace talk between Iran and Saudi Arabia. So how do you see this in the pretext of India? Because it is also said that it is end of Carter's doctrine and shifting of sands of Arabia.
Right.
So what is the end of Carter's doctrine?
Sir, I don't know the context of this saying per se, but from India's perspective, it is an important measure because two important regional powers which had been in divergence with each other is now coming together. So it is a shift of balance of power and also the second important factor is it has been brokered by China. So the vacuum that has been created by withdrawal of US.
But don't you feel that it could have been brokered by India? India lost the opportunity of not getting the initiative and doing it.
It is a lost opportunity, but there will be many more such opportunities. Yes.
Acha, my last question. Tell me now, Chinese president recently visited Russia and they had a summit. We call it summit? Okay, we call it summit. So now how do you see, in case of Indian context, is it again like India should try to align with West, or will it continue to get same kind of support from Russia in future?
Sir, I think India has been walking a very tight rope, and very well it has maintained its national security interests. So in the Indo-Pacific or with regards to technology, it has aligned with the West through the Quad and other measures. And at the same time, the friendship with Russia is very important to India. So I think India should continue balancing both these powers as it has in the recent past.
Okay, Deepika, how much time you have spent in Sikkim?
So till my 10th standard, so 15 years I was in.
Now when the Gorkhaland movement was going on, at that time one of the important suggestions was to merge Darjeeling with Sikkim.
Yes.
What's your take on that?
Sir, historically, Darjeeling once was a part of Sikkim, but then later on, after the Treaty of Sugauli, it was differentiated. I actually the movement there is for local representation. Merging with any state will not solve that problem, be it Sikkim or be it...
No, the demand can be anything.
Right.
But if you see as a administrator's viewpoint, that Sikkim is a small state, hills, Darjeeling hills were around boil.
Right.
So a suggestion was given to merge Darjeeling or maybe North Bengal with Sikkim and make a new state.
Right.
I need your opinion on that.
Sir, it is an
and Sikkim resisted.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So that is because culturally, Sikkim has always been a very separate entity. It was a kingdom.
But you said that it was part of that.
But after it became part of West Bengal and the British government, culturally, so Sikkim has more tribal and the Bhotia population or the Tibetan population. On the other hand, Gorkhas are Hindus with a very separate culture, distinct way of life. So I think now merging it with Sikkim might create more cultural fractures.
Cultural or political fractures?
Politically, yes. It will also create...
Gorkhas controlling the Bhotias. That was the major crux.
Sir, even today, 77% of the population in Sikkim is of the Nepali population. So, it is not right to say that anyone will ruin, but it is a politically sensitive, it will become politically sensitive.
Today in newspapers, it's mentioned that Russia has decided to put nuclear arsenal in Belarus.
Right.
How do you see this development?
Sir, it is a worrying development because because it creates the possibility or near future possibility of using of nuclear weapons, which is not good for any person in the world. So it is a troubling...
but why should we be worried? Why Europe is worried?
So Europe is worried, but it leads to arms race. So it will also put pressure on India to increase its nuclear arsenal or to so overall defense expenditure.
Do you think that apart from Ukraine, another border clashes will start in Belarus? Because Europe fears that putting the nuclear arsenal in Belarus will harm their interests. Though in Ukraine, when they came in, it harmed the interest of Russia.
Right. So I didn't get your question.
Europeans coming to Ukraine to fight the war, it hampered Russia's interests.
Right.
So Russia is checkmating them by putting their things in Belarus.
Right.
So what is the issue then? Tit for tat?
Yes, sir. It is to some extent, but it just leads to more escalation and closes the door, narrows the door for peaceful negotiations. So
why there is no peaceful negotiation? Who is stopping that?
So
whose interest it is being served?
Sir, the interest of, I think both parties are not willing to take a step back. They have reached a stage in the war where face-saving exit for either parties at this moment of time is very difficult.
But Ukraine doesn't want to save its face. They said that unless and until we push all Russians out of Ukraine, we will not go for discussion.
Right. So to some extent, it is that that ego, if I may say, if that is the right word. But
in diplomacy, there is nothing like ego.
Right. So it is to some extent Ukraine's sort of not being able to taking the help of NATO and not sitting down for peaceful negotiations.
Sir was discussing you about Sikkim.
Yes.
Sikkim was a kingdom.
Yes.
An independent kingdom, made a part of Indian state. Do you think it is a good idea, a kingdom becoming part of India?
Sir, so Sikkim even earlier had its defense and communication foreign policy under the Indian state. And at that time, it was a very small state bordered by three neighboring countries trying to exert influence. So it was a very good measure to become a part of Indian state, politically, and second, of course, it brings democracy because as a kingdom, it was a monarchy, and people wanted to live under a democratic regime. So,
is the monarch politically active now?
No, he is not politically active.
Teesta River Where does it originate and what is its impact on Sikkim's sustainable development?
So it originates in the Cholamu glacier region, and it plays a very important part because most of the other rivers like Rangit are tributaries of Tista, and hydroelectric power is one of the major sources of income for the economy of Sikkim. So Tista plays a very important role. Of course, apart from these cultural significance, the significance of water. So.
Tista River, there is no pollution?
So pollution is there, but because the elevation is so high and the steepness is so high, so the flow of water does not let pollutants to, so it gets more polluted in the lower reach when it reaches Sevok and when it is going towards Bangladesh. But in the higher rungs, when it is in Sikkim, it is not very polluted.
You are a Bharatanatyam dancer.
Yes.
Whether I speak more about the theme or your body movements?
Sir, eyes is a very important part of the whole Abhinaya, but the beauty of Bharatanatyam is even your little finger is coordinated and in sync with the eyes. So,
how the mudra is so important in Bharatanatyam?
So the mudra depicts different things. So, like an elephant in Bharatanatyam, you're not speaking with words, you're speaking with your hands or your eyes. So that is why mudras are important.
Why did you choose Bharatanatyam out of so many classical dances? That too from South, you are from North.
Right. Sir, so Bharatanatyam is always done in very geometrical. If you look at Bharatanatyam dancers, it's always very geometrical and in sync. So I was very fascinated. It's called the fire dance. So just like if you look at a diya with the law, just like the law keeps moving, that's how a Bharatanatyam dancer moves. So for me, like I was always very fascinated how that is done, which is why I picked up Bharatanatyam.
You still dance?
Yes.
Very good. I want to ask you about commerce and accountancy.
Yes.
While taking International Financial Reporting Standards, ICAI has made IND IFRS or IND IAS.
Yes, yes.
Why? Why such a carving out? Why not IFRS ditto?
Right. Sir, that is because whenever any global standard is applied in any country, there are certain regional or country-related specific factors that has to be taken into account.
Let us get into the specific factors. What are those specific factors?
Sir, I'm so sorry. I don't know.
Let me ask you,
yes.
Is Indian Income Tax Act same as International or US Act?
No, sir.
Is Indian Insurance Act same?
No, sir. It's
Company law same?
No, it's...
So these are the factors, okay?
Right.
You were talking about human suffering. It's very important to give aid to these, as we have to the Sri Lanka. What is your idea? Should we give some package to the Pakistan also?
Yes, sir.
Why?
Because at the end of, irrespective of political differences, I think India has been a country which has had this, we do not have any differences with the people of Pakistan.
So we give the money to the Pakistan to harm us again by that money?
No, if it's humanitarian aid, so for example, even with Taliban,
how
we have
it is
issues
a humanitarian, it's a man-made crisis. Of course, Turkey wishes and we gave the aid because it was a crisis.
Right.
It's a natural calamity.
Right.
But in Pakistan, it's not a natural calamity.
Right.
Why we should aid them?
Right. No, so in the flood areas or areas
flood
where
is
there
long
is...
back. Now it is a
Yes.
political, I think
Yes.
it is because of the political
Yes.
corruption there.
Right. So corruption we should definitely, but if there is any food or humanitarian crisis, then we should support.
We should support.
Yes.
Okay. Recently, Rajasthan government is thinking to pass a law for the gig workers. Since you are economists, you know the things.
Yes.
What the measures we should take for the gig workers?
Sir, gig workers are not contractually, do not have
Yes,
share
that's
in
true. Zomato people
employer-employee.
are there,
Yes.
freelancer workers.
Yes,
Gig
yes.
workers.
So I think social security measures for gig workers is very important. The second is minimum.
So there was suggestion of Gig Workers Welfare Act.
Yes.
What you will suggest? And you tell me in the bullet point.
Yes. Sir, a national fund was to be created where central government would contribute some money and the major gig platform workers will also contribute. So this fund should be created, which can help give social security.
How we help? Should we go for insurance scheme for the gig workers, or what measures we can take?
Sir, insurance is pension schemes for social security is very important for gig workers. Minimum basic pay, because they have a lot of fluctuation in the amount of wages that they earn. So any minimum basic pay that they earn per month, that should be guaranteed. So these measures.
Have you got idea how many gig workers are there?
No, sir, I don't know.
If truck driver is a gig worker, you count in a gig worker?
If he does not share, if he has come through a contractor, then yes, he is a gig worker. But the term is more used in terms of technology platforms in the current scenario.
Our policies, in the foreign affairs, you must be aware, there are some terrorist groups are working in our neighbor, especially in the Pakistan, Afghanistan area, say in Iraq also. Can you name some terrorist group?
Yes, sir. So ज़ Mohammed.
𝐍𝐄𝐃𝐄 Mohammed was long back eliminated.
Yes,
Their commander was killed.
Yes, sir. So terror groups based in Pakistan. So the ISIS.
Yes. ISIS is based in Pakistan. Which part of the Pakistan it is based?
Sir, in the Pakhtunkhwa region and the western frontiers, the north.
What is difference in what is ISIS Khorasan? Where they are working?
So Syria and Iran. That
we see so many terrorist groups are working in Pakistan.
Right.
What is their aim is?
So they work with a religious ideology to create a certain form of governance. Or
is there some ethnic problem also with them?
So that varies from different groups to group. So, for example, the 𝐒𝐢𝐺 Pakistan, which works in the northwestern region, has certain like.
What is the difference in 𝐿 and 𝐿?
Sir, I don't know the exact difference.
How India is performing in SDG?
Sir, in terms of SDG, India is performing okayish, I will say, but it is not.
Have you gone through the report? There was a latest report.
So, no, I haven't gone through the latest report.
Okay. How much NPAs, non-performing assets, how we have taken care of the banks?
Right.
And when they say they have written off, how that written off is treated?
Yes. So the IBC was a very important measure that was taken off.
That's okay.
Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. The bad debts bank, which was introduced, took over around 2 lakh crore of the bad debts from a lot of public sector banks.
How much NPAs do we have right now?
Sir, it is close to around 6 to 7%, but I'm not sure of the exact figure right now.
I mean, you should find out that. When Sri Lanka was melting down in the economic issue, there were apprehensions that many of our state governments are also no better.
Yes.
What was the issue?
Sir, one of the major problems of the crisis was that the government was giving a lot of freebies, and it was not, and the taxation.
So what was the worry?
So the worry was that even some of the Indian states are
having what? Having what?
So, for example, the excessive amount of electricity subsidy, or
their
right.
debt GDP ratio
was very high.
And their fiscal deficit were also very high. So
yes.
That was the issue.
Right.
Okay. I think we'll close your interview.
Yes.